difference when you have a 6 foot tall purple dragon as opposed to a regular ass, like rhombus kite thing,
Well, that's the thing about kites is it's funny because you could literally do anything with a kite. Like they could be any shape and be weird things.
Well, mostly.
Yeah, mostly.
It's got to be aerodynamic. I've seen like these massive like octopus looking kites. And so the strings are attached to like the head of the octopus. Okay. And then the legs float around freely and stuff. It looks super cool just staring at it, because it looks like a sky octopus. I don't know, man. I'm a sucker for dumb shit like that.
Oh, that's fair.
Me and my dad used to go there and fly the kite. And I don't know, man. It was just fun,
Yeah, let's go fly a kite, man. That's what Mary Poppins said, right? I think. I don't know. I've never seen it.
Maybe Joe Rogan?
No. Definitely not. I think they had a song about it. I think that's what they saw. I actually seen Saving Mr. Banks more than I've seen Mary Poppins.
I've only seen Mary Poppins a handful of times. I've seen like every remake of Mary Poppins though, except the new one that's on the agenda.
I actually heard it isn't that bad.
I wouldn't doubt it.
I heard Dumbo isn't that bad either.
The thing's too creepy for me, man.
Yeah.
I want to be able to sleep at night.
It's not even just that. It's just I hate adding extra layers to stories that doesn't necessarily need it.
You know how we feel about remakes and
this is true.
Redux we were at a brewery last night. Mm-hmm. And they had this winter's over sale, and they have really nice merch for a brewery.
Okay.
And it was a long sleeve tee and a beanie for $30, and I was like, hell yeah! And dude, that fucking tee is stupid soft. I was like, wow, this is better than some of the band merch out there I have.
Did I tell you that I made a friend on?
Yeah, you mentioned overseas,
Siege,
right?
Yeah,
there's a brewery out in Colorado or something.
No, Buffalo.
Buffalo.
Yeah.
Oh, Buffalo. Damn, you should have said something.
Yeah, he Froth Brewery out in Buffalo. He said. But I didn't really get to talk to him about it because I'm like, we were playing with him, and I'm like, oh man, my buddy just came back from Buffalo. This was like a couple months ago.
Yeah,
my buddy just came back from Buffalo, and the whole brewery thing, and every time I die, I'm like, maybe Gabe had a beer. I don't know. But other than that, man, you ready to get going?
Yeah, man.
What is going on, guys? Welcome to the Second City Kids podcast, episode number 113.
Wow, 113, man.
Yeah, trucking along, man.
We're 2 episodes away from Element 115. You remember that in the zombie storyline? Element 115.
Oh, okay. Yeah, man. We're back on a beautiful day on the south side of Chicago, Illinois.
It's been a nice weekend, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a little drizzly. I think they said torrential downpour, but light raindrops here and there.
Yeah, nothing too bad so far today.
No.
Which is a beautiful day because today's WrestleMania.
Yeah, man. Always a good day to wrestle, right?
Yep. So that's why I try to do this as early as possible, because basically after this I'm going to sit down and watch wrestling for the next 8 hours, because it's like the longest event in recorded history. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, so that's today's WrestleMania day. So that's what I'm pretty amped, pretty excited. This is like a holiday for me every year.
Very cool. Very cool.
It's more important to me than Easter, which is kind of sad, I guess. But
hey, man, do you?
Yeah.
Your family, your house.
Yeah, it is what it is. But other than that, man, how was your week, Gabe?
Man, it was pretty good up until this morning. My mom got a phone call from one of her close friends, and so my mom and this person's grandma are like best friends, and I used to like babysit him, hang around with him, and apparently he's dead, and it was kind of like out of the blue, like sometimes I don't want to say like I forgot about him, but like sometimes you don't keep in touch with people, and then boom, next thing you know, they're dead.
Oh wow!
So it was kind of like, like we were about to leave the house, and she's like on the phone, like when something's up with your mom, that voice, and I was like, what's up, mom? And she's like, oh, like Matt died, and I was like, holy shit. Eesh. Like this kid didn't, he didn't even make it to 21.
What happened?
And we don't know yet. They're still determining it, but it was kind of like a rude wake up this morning,
Eesh. Sorry to hear that, my friend. Ew.
So rough.
Ugh. Yeah,
it's kind of sad, no? Like
absolutely.
Like think about it. If you're the last one out of your friend group to live, you're going to see all your other buddies die. How sad is that?
That is pretty sad.
That's pretty brutal, huh? That's metal as fuck.
And I'm sad because I'm the youngest in my group of friends. Well, other than you, but like my high school group of friends, I was the youngest, so I'm probably going to watch all my Ponce and Nikki and Harding die.
Well, I was like, my like group of friends, they all have a terrible like vice, and I feel like they didn't get taken by those vices.
Oh, okay.
Like one of them like works himself to death like every day. Like he's Mr. 10 hours, goes home and continues to code,
Yeah.
Like he's your age. He's 25 and he has gray hair.
Oh God.
Yeah. Kind of rough, man.
Yeah, man. It's been a rough week on here as well. Yeah, my grandpa had an issue earlier this week.
Off your dad's side?
Yeah, was the only one I have left.
Right.
So he had an issue where he lost like a lot of blood because he had a kidney. I don't want to put his business out there, but he had like an operation done, and they botched it a little bit, so he was losing like a large amount of blood. Lost like 2 liters of blood or something like that.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. So fortunately, that whole situation kind of turned around once we got him kind of figured out what was wrong with him. They were able to kind of fix him up pretty quickly.
So is it time to sue or?
Well, I don't know if it's time to sue. I mean, it's not really high on the priority list right now. What's high on the priority list is making sure that he's okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it turns out, it looks like he's going to make it out okay, which is good news because I don't know about you. I'm sick of watching people die. So,
yeah, man, it's kind of rough.
Yeah, so.
You think that this would be a later stage in our life, but,
yeah,
you know?
Well, like I said, the last 10 years or so have been complicated. I had we did the podcast not so shortly after my grandpa on my mom's side died. So it sucks, but I'm glad that he's okay and he made it out fine.
Yeah, man. We just got to keep pushing, right?
Yep, absolutely. So
we got to, well, maybe before we dive into that, take care of yourself and your friends, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
Stay healthy, mentally healthy. All that shit's important.
For sure.
So we got, I think the movies and TV are probably the most juicy this week.
Yeah,
we
absolutely.
got some good stuff on here. So let's get rolling with The Dead Don't Die. They dropped the poster and apparently the trailer. I have not seen the trailer.
I've seen the trailer.
And this movie came out of the blue. It wasn't on any list earlier this year. It was just kind of like, with Shazam. Well, not literally Shazam. But this movie has, I would say, a pretty good modern all-star cast. I use modern because, you don't get like Johnny Depp or Brad Pitt.
Yeah.
But we have Selena Gomez. I think she's a good actress. I enjoy her.
Mm-hmm.
Austin Butler. I love Austin Butler. He did Nesdy Classified, Zoe 101, and a bunch of other stuff. I think he's very underrated.
Yeah.
Adam Driver. Love Adam Driver.
Yeah.
You ever see the SNL skit with him?
No.
Oh, my God. He's like an oil Mongol. He's
man.
fucking hilarious. I lost my shit. I got to show you that after the show. Bill Murray, nothing to be said there except it's Bill fucking Murray.
Yeah.
Hey, maybe they'll keep him alive this movie.
Maybe.
Tilda Swinton, love her. She thinks she did a fantastic job in Constantine. Steve Buscemi. I made a comment the other day because we were talking about this movie. Steve Buscemi is going to make the greatest zombie ever, period.
Yeah.
Put him in the makeup and just have him talk.
Yeah.
That's all you need to do.
That's pretty good.
Tom Waits, Danny Glover, Iggy Pop, Rosie Perez. That's kind of a big lineup for a movie that, I don't know, just kind of came on our radar as of this week, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So talk to me about this trailer because like I said, I have not seen it yet.
So yeah, the trailer came out. I actually saw the trailer before I saw the poster, and literally as you showed me the poster, I just finished watching it. I'm like, literally, I just saw it. You're like, oh yeah, down the docket. I'm like, it's already done.
Very cool.
So I saw the trailer, and it has, because it's Bill Murray, it has an undertone of funny to it, right? So that's fine. I mean, it's Bill fucking Murray, like you said. So he's going to be able to do whatever the fuck he wants. He's going to get away with it. As far as the project, I think it's interesting because it turns out that, I guess, based on, I don't know how much information you want to know, but that Bill Murray is like the grizzled old veteran cop, and Adam Driver is kind of the by-the-book rookie.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, so...
I was one day away from retiring.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. So they got that going, and basically Bill Murray's character is the type of character that doesn't take anything seriously, and Adam Driver's character is like, well, what the fuck do we do? What's going on? And the whole zombie apocalypse thing happens.
So what is this, a drama, a romance?
I think it's more along the lines of a comedy.
Comedy? Okay.
Yeah. Like I said, I don't know how over the top they're going to be. They're going to have the action moments, obviously, because it's a zombie film. You have to have those moments. But I think with Bill Murray and Adam Driver kind of playing off each other, it's going to lend himself to more of a comedy environment. But yeah, it was interesting looking. They definitely took a kind of a low budget idea and gave it kind of the polish of a high budget.
They said let's make a B movie with some really good actors, actresses, and hopefully plot.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm looking forward to it, man, because I think we don't get enough of these type of movies these days.
Here's my thing. I'm glad to see the zombie genre in its resurgence because it definitely started off with, for me at least, was the George Romero remake in 2005? Was it Day of the Dead? Or was it with
that
was Dawn
of the Dead?
Dawn of the Dead. There we go. He has. I think there's a Day of the Dead too, and that's the one where the zombies get smarter. Or whatever.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
But Dawn of the Dead was kind of when my zombie interest was like peaked, and then you hit like the 2010 era. Like you get Zombies EP, you get all this shit cranking out left and right. Zombies. Everybody. Like Zombie Dice, the Steve Jackson game, everything was zombies.
Yep.
Walking Dead, you name it, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Nazi zombies, et cetera, right?
Yeah.
And then we kind of saw this point where like
got sick of it.
2014, 2015, everybody was like, all right, enough is enough.
Yeah.
I'm excited to see this coming back because I think the beauty in like a zombie movie is like, it's really at the end of the day, you can add whatever genre you want to it.
Yep.
But that's not the beauty. The beauty is essentially gore porn, but you don't feel bad. You know, like you don't feel disgusted like when you're watching like Saw or Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Well, the reason why is because it's zombies. It's not. It's
exactly.
not a human being. Yeah.
And I think that's like a I don't. It still is a guilty pleasure because there's those hardcore Christians out there and whatever that don't want to watch it. But I think going into it, if you want to see something bloody, guts, and shit like that, I think zombie movies are just there. It's almost like a guilt-free pass. Make sense?
Oh no, you're right. You're definitely right. And like you said, I was probably part of the wave of people who were just kind of sick of it after a while because, like you said, it was oversaturation. For me, the highlight of it was, The Last of Us. And after that, I'm like, well, nothing's ever going to come close. As far as a serious tone, nothing's ever going to get better for me personally, as far as zombie goes. So, I mean, like you said, we took some time off. Obviously, Zombieland kind of was the first one to Shaun of the Dead was kind of the first one.
Shaun of the Dead was fucking excellent.
Yeah, to kind of combine those two things, the comedy kind of with the dark.
And then we got Warm Bodies, which is the comedy one. And
yeah, which also, it was like a romantic comedy.
Yeah. And there was a lot of zombie stuff, but I feel like now that like 2019 might be the resurgence of zombies because we got the Resident Evil 2 remaster, which was phenomenal.
Yeah.
We're getting this Zombieland 2.
Yep.
And now, we'll see. I hope this is going to be like when the fireworks die down and you get one last big one.
Yeah.
I'm not hoping for a whole ass another show.
You want a swan song. You want that final
Maybe not a swan song. I want a couple things here and there that are quality because it's hard to fuck up a zombie movie, but it's really easy to make it boring. You know?
No, you're right. You're definitely right. And I guess we'll see what it looks like moving forward. But yeah, I mean, they gave us some time to miss it, and now it's back.
Granted, not as much as a lot of other properties, but
absolutely.
I think there's something to be said about like the horror aspect, and you could even say Halloween is gore porn. Really,
yeah,
a decent chunk of it, and I'm glad it's making a comeback in this sense, like the horror aspect and the body dysmorphia, all that stuff. I think that's entertaining.
Absolutely.
In a fantasy setting.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. Because I got Faces of Death. If you want to watch people get fucking mutilated, if that's what you're down for.
Man, we could talk about fucked up movies for a whole ass podcast. Let's move on. So talk to me about Avengers.
So obviously, I mean, hey man, the tickets went on sale, and I'm gonna say that this is 150% intentional. They waited to the last minute to drop these tickets, so there was this massive buzz about it, about nobody being able to get on and get tickets. Right?
I think that's a fair thing because I think first of all, Disney has the money, resources, and allocation, and I'm sure if they were genuinely concerned about these servers not going down, they would have funneled money into AMC and be like, hey, don't fuck this up. Yeah, but I think they were going for the whole Avengers broke the internet.
Yeah.
Again.
Absolutely.
I think they were going for that.
That is a very big part of it, 100%. So obviously, like you said, AMC, basically their mobile app and their website went down for probably about 12 hours. Nobody was able to get in or out. Fandango fared a little bit better. They had a digital queue. I think you mentioned it a couple weeks ago. Was it you? No, somebody mentioned it that that these online websites that sell tickets have developed kind of a way of not being able to bombard their website by creating a digital line that you have to wait, and they're like, just wait here until your time is coming.
Yeah, makes sense.
And then they allow you access to the website. Now, when I hopped on, I had to wait for an hour, but the upside of that is that I was on my phone, so I just tabbed out. Or,
refresh.
Yeah. No, now you have to refresh. I just let it sit there until I'm like, okay, that's been about an hour. Oh, 10 minutes left. Sweet. You know what I mean?
Nice.
So I got my tickets. I got myself an early showing on that Sunday. So I'll be able to review it on the pod fresh in mind. But, obviously with anything that comes with anything with high demand, somebody's trying to exploit that. You see it probably on the eBay, people trying to sell these tickets for thousands.
Oh, absolutely.
Thousands of dollars.
Look at the Ghost Inside. They released more tickets on Friday. Of course, I didn't, I spoke about it. I didn't get a chance to because they were gone in lickety-split. And now people are selling the tickets for like $300-$400.
Yeah.
And, the Ghost Inside was like, guys, fuck off.
Yeah.
Sell it at face value if you can't make it. Don't don't buy off scalpers.
Don't be a dick. But yeah, so like you said, people on eBay selling them for like thousands of dollars. I'm like, well, first off, it's not that fucking serious. It can wait.
It can wait a week.
Yeah.
It can even wait because what? I'm assuming it drops on a Thursday night, right?
Correct.
As all movie releases do now. Mm-hmm. Thursday, late night showing. You could really wait till that Monday, man, and go to a much quieter thing, Well,
I like I said, I know that it kind of took down the internet, and like I said, it was kind of a bigger deal. I got on. Just need to exercise some patience. You'll be fine.
Yeah.
Because like I said, after about the 12-hour mark, AMC got the shit together, and they were able to access their website pretty fucking easily. So it was more of a people trying to access the website kind of a problem. Because when I bought my tickets, there wasn't a whole lot of seats taken in my theater. You know, now I look back and now obviously.
Right. I'm sure like the LA and New York theaters, and I'm sure some of the city theaters in Chicago were the ones getting bombarded.
Yeah.
And that took down the whole server. Yeah.
Yeah.
I would assume.
All those major markets, you know, kind of crashing the site, which is fine. Fair enough. But yeah, man, like I said, you know, you saw the internet, and AMC had a good joke about it where it's like, well, man, Thanos must have got us in the whole finger snapping situation because we went down.
Yeah, this whole thing is very rehearsed in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%.
But I think, because for me at least, the real movie season starts next week. We get Hellboy, the week after that La Llorona, and so on and so forth. And I think this is going to be a good year for movies.
It's funny because I feel like the summer blockbuster has now become the spring blockbuster where all these things start to push earlier.
Well, even then, fuck the spring blockbuster, right? Because I'm excited for Hellboy. That doesn't mean everybody's excited for Hellboy.
My wife wants to see it.
I think the market now is that early to mid game fall, and then every other year it being December, because we get a Harry Potter and we get a Star Wars movie.
Yeah.
And I think that's the end of the year market is it's shifted to.
It's funny because I feel like, I don't really feel like it because it's kind of documented that Star Wars was one of the first kind of summer blockbusters that existed.
Absolutely.
The original Star Wars, and then of course Jaws. I'm sure that was a fucking hit. You know what I mean? There's something to be said about the summer blockbuster. I do kind of miss that feeling. I mean, it's not nearly as fun to go to a movie theater when it's fucking negative 20 degrees outside, you know?
But I will say there is something special about doing that.
You think so?
I absolutely think so. Don't get me wrong, I enjoy the summer blockbuster. But going into the theater when it's shitty out and, you know, like late at night, pitch black, and just watching Star Wars. Granted, we have our reservations about the new movie, but I think there's something equally as special as with the summer blockbuster, you know?
Yeah.
I just kind of like being all bundled up and watching lightsabers be swung around, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. So speaking of Star Wars, just want to cover this quickly. Basically, I guess what is being coming out of the J.J. Abrams camp is that basically that this new film is going to kind of be like a retcon of the whole Last Jedi situation, where they're kind of in damage control trying to fix some of the things they left open. So
we'll see.
Yeah, I guess we'll have to see about that.
I know J.J. and Rian Johnson are like buddy.
Yeah,
I don't think he's going to completely scrap everything.
Well, I'm saying like the stuff that needed to be fixed. You know what I mean? There's definitely things that needed to be addressed, and moving forward, I think it's important that we get that fixed. You know. So I
don't think you necessarily need a fix. I think it needs to make sense in the grand scheme of things. Because me and Amanda were discussing the Alien films the other day, right? Mm-hmm. And when Prometheus came out, there was this whole like hullabaloo of like, dude, what the fuck is this? This isn't in an Alien movie. And then it's on this rotation where Covenant came out and the same thing happened. And then people were like, you know what? Prometheus was actually pretty good.
Prometheus ain't that bad.
And I think that Maddie said it perfectly. She said that the movies, in this case, the Aliens, the prequels have to make sense within their own boundaries and within the grand scheme of the prequels. Like, you have to lead into how the aliens are made. And we're kind of getting there. You know, Covenant raised more questions than it answered. But that's fine as long as the third one wraps it up. Yeah. And I think you could apply the same rule to Star Wars. Yeah, there was this crazy-ass outrage. You know, Luke's essentially a hermit little bitch right now. And I thought the whole Force Ghost thing was pretty cool. But the way he cheesed out of it was not. But if it makes sense in the way and the themes displayed through these next three movies, if that makes sense, I think all will be forgiven.
That's a good copy. But
yeah, if it was J.J. Abrams, I'd even go as far to say that this was planned. This was like a very controversial thing that was planned, and then it'd be wrapped up. But it wasn't, so we don't know. Yeah. So yeah, man. We actually have another. I don't want to call it controversial because I think it's pretty proper, but maybe controversial property at this point. Let's talk about the Joker.
So yeah, this Joker trailer dropped. Has a very distinct vibe thing, a very important feel.
So we spoke about Joaquin Phoenix.
Yes, we did.
And we both like him.
Yep.
And I have some thoughts about this trailer.
Okay.
Here's my thing. The trailer was excellent. Mm-hmm. And you know me, I like to stay away from trailers. I like to keep my reservations. But here's my grand kind of scheme, my grand philosophy on this trailer. This trailer is proper and excellent because it doesn't throw the Joker in your face. This trailer would have been great if it was like Bozo or any other random clown. It still looks really good, it looks really interesting, and it looks really captivating. And I think this is the first time DC's done something like this, where don't get me wrong, superheroes are an attraction, but it shouldn't be what makes your movie good. What makes your movie good is writing, directing, acting, right?
Correct.
And the superhero thing should be a supplement. That is your setting. That is your universe. And I think they did this the right way because this looks, like I said, this could not be titled Joker. This could be titled John Wayne Gacy, and I'd still go see it.
Yeah.
And that's what really sold it for me because, extradite the Joker thing and put any other clown in there.
Yep.
And I think it still looks like a great trailer.
Absolutely. Now, I think what's important, there's a couple of things that are important when it comes to a Joker movie, Joker trailer, for like a Joker standalone film. One of the things that I feel like needs to be taken care of or pinned up, I have no frame of reference for this at all, but it's okay to make the guy who becomes Joker sympathetic. However,
we'll get back to that in a second.
However, what I don't want is for you to make the Joker sympathetic, because once he starts doing evil shit, there should be no relating to him anymore, right? Should be. If you're from a normal mindset, there should be no more relating.
Here's okay. So the trailer shows Joaquin Phoenix taking care of what we're assuming is his mom, right?
Yeah.
And so I think what's going to happen is that she's going to die at some point in the movie, and he's going to snap, right?
Yeah.
But like, that's something new we really haven't seen in a live action Batman or Joker film at this point, where you feel sympathy towards the clown.
Yeah.
And I think that's going to be a really interesting point. And I'm going to bring this back to Wolf of Wall Street. Jordan Belfort was a total piece of shit in that movie, but yet you're rooting him on the whole time, right? And I want to agree with you. Like, I don't want to feel sympathetic towards the Joker, but there's this whole thing of separating the man from the mask now that we have to deal with. Because the trailer definitely made you feel kind of like, oh man, this poor guy.
Yeah.
But then you're like, wait, this is also the Joker, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that's going to be a really interesting aspect to take.
No, that's what I'm saying. Like, you could feel bad for the guy who became the Joker. Feel bad for him. But once the Joker becomes the Joker and starts doing dastardly shit and fucking people up and doing horrible things to all these people and to the whole city of Gotham, that's when the sympathy should stop.
Keyword.
Yeah.
Should. We'll see how the movie takes it.
I just don't want them to make him an anti-hero, because he's not. Ever.
I think that what's going to happen, I don't think they're going to go for the anti-hero aspect.
I don't know, dude, because they showed footage, but some of the footage they showed had people dressed up as him and like cheering him on at the courthouse looking situation. That's the thing, like people holding up posters of his face on it and shit. That makes me feel a little.
No, I don't think that's what it's going to be. I think he's going to start off with lesser crimes, not necessarily essentially blowing up Gotham, but I think he's going to like take out like political figures or corrupt things, and it's going to start off as, we're trying to do the right thing. Like, hey, my mom died because of you, but it's going to devolve into madness very quick. We'll see. I think my prediction for this is that you're going to feel bad for the Joker because you know it was Joaquin Phoenix or whatever the character's name is, you know? Mm-hmm. It's going to translate over even though it shouldn't. Yeah. It's going to like bleed through the paper essentially. Mm-hmm. I think that's what's going to happen.
Now, I think one of the most important lines from the trailer was, he's like, oh, I thought my life was a tragedy, but it turns out it's a comedy. I think that's kind of interesting.
That's a very good quote. I also really enjoyed the laugh. I thought the laugh was fucking phenomenal.
Yeah, definitely.
It was nice and eerie.
Now, like, I don't know, man. Some of his delivery is very good. Like, he makes you feel really uncomfortable with some of his delivery, where he's like, when he's first, like, the trailer opens up, he's like, Mom always said that I would bring smiles to all the world and stuff like that. You're just like, yeah, it sends chills down your spine. I'm afraid of the whole anti-hero tone. I don't think that's the tone they should go with it. Like I said, build it up to where you can understand him, but that's where it ends. Because you're like, okay, now he's gone too far.
We'll see, man. We've definitely had really good adaptations of the Joker, and we've had even worse adaptations of the Joker.
Jared Leto.
Bringing it back to that, this 1 3-minute trailer has more depth and is more fleshed out than the entire Suicide Squad movie.
Yeah, man. Did you see some of the physical transformation that Joaquin put himself through? Like the super skinny fucking rib cages.
Mm-hmm. And Man's was fucking crazy. Yeah. But, man, I wanted to touch on one more point, but I totally forgot now.
Sorry.
But yeah, this thing has definitely more personality than all of the Suicide Squad movie.
Absolutely.
And I guess we'll see where this movie goes. But, the thing, right? So I mentioned to you that because in the trailer, he's like putting a smile on some boy's face behind like these giant iron gates. I was like, what if that's Bruce Wayne?
You're not the only person to say that. I saw that. I saw some write-ups about it that people thought.
Imagine that. Yeah. Imagine how fucking wild that'd be.
Yeah.
The implications there.
Yeah.
The implications. Yeah. So I thought it was a properly good trailer.
Yeah, that's good.
And I'm excited to see October 4th.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
It's coming along. Not looking too bad either. All right. So I don't know if I should carry this over because I have a lot to say.
No, man, let's rock and roll. I feel like I just did this like last year. I feel like I gave my review on this series.
Did you?
I definitely did because we picked them up. I remember I picked them up for like $5-6, all the movies. But let's rock and roll because they're kind of still fresh in my mind.
Absolutely.
So the movie the series we're talking about is the Mummy series with Brendan Fraser.
Absolutely.
And all right, I'm gonna let you lead this because I have my kind of thoughts out there.
All right. So me and Adriana were digging through this weekend. We started to watch them, and let me just kind of preface this by saying I am a huge fan of these movies.
Yeah.
All right. Because as far as like early exposure, it's actually one of like the first DVDs I remember owning.
Yeah, same here actually.
I think Matrix was like the first one. I think Gladiator and The Mummy.
Well, you had a good start.
Yeah, definitely had a good start with that collection. But watching it back and kind of what it did, I feel like these movies are severely underrated.
Grossly underrated.
Yeah, like disgustingly underrated because it's coming from an era where the movies like The Matrix exist, right? And like those big Oscar, the Gladiators of the world, all these movies kind of came out at the same time. And this movie doesn't take itself overly seriously, all right? Especially the first one. I think it understands what it is, and what it is kind of a reimagining of a horror icon, right? To kind of bring it up to speed and change kind of the tone a little bit and make a fucking star out of Brendan Fraser. Now, I know he did stuff before this movie came out. He did like School Ties.
I would say this is like his iconic, his masterpiece,
his iconic role. It is his Indiana Jones, and man, you really could see how he became kind of a star.
Yeah,
based on
actor,
this,
right?
Yeah, and Rachel Weisz did a fucking great job as Evie. Yeah,
she's banging.
And dude, especially I was telling Adriana, I'm like, she got like way better looking from the first one to the second one. I don't know what she did, why she looked so different, but she was looking good in two. But anyway, just some of like the casting choices that they made along the way. They had Jonathan, who was like kind of that comic relief, the Johnny Cage of the whole entire situation, right? Where you would kind of be like, well, what the fuck are we doing? And why is this happening? And this doesn't make any sense at all. Kind of having that thing going. And they had kind of the sleazeball merchant jail warden guy. Kind of having him kind of do some of the physical comedy aspects of it in the original. It had kind of this wonderful story of like kind of a love gone wrong. And how Imhotep really at the end of the day was doing it for a girl. Like he killed his pharaoh over a girl because he had no other choice, right? And kind of how his evil, he was evil not because of
evil's sake.
Yeah, he
was
being
evil because he wanted love.
Yeah, he wanted love, making him kind of sympathetic. Especially by the end of the 2, you're like, oh man, that sucks.
Yeah, especially after you deal with his shit in 1.
Yeah, how everything he kind of went through and made a great villain too. A fantastic villain, menacing,
imposing. He looked kind of like Goldberg in his bald face. His stance, he was just like, he's not a big guy, but he was very imposing on screen. He had a massive stage presence.
Yeah, visually, he's like very imposing, and even more so when he wasn't the Mummy, like when him absolutely. Walking around, not really
in the flesh, in the black cloak, like a very Voldemort-esque figure, huh?
Yeah, not really saying much of anything, but when he does, you're like, oh, like he had kind of that deepy, raspy kind of voice that sold his lines very well. And the kind of that smirk he made when they were all surrounded on the streets of Egypt.
You know what Imhotep could have gotten away with? The below the lip piercing like David Draymond has from Disturbed.
I think he could get away with that.
Yeah.
Very imposing and a very good villain. Good story. Great set pieces. Some tremendous set pieces. Great use of CGI before CGI kind of became more of a solid thing. The Mummy looked good. The Mummy looked real good.
The Rock looked like crap.
Well, that's the second one. But
So, do you have a favorite between the two? Because I'm assuming. Okay. So we're opposites on this one. 2 is really proper. Yeah. I like it, and it does a lot of good things for the story and characters. But I feel like a lot of the magic in 1, because 1 I feel like was essentially a satire on the whole Indiana Jones thing,
absolutely
mixed in with horror elements. Like I think they even poke fun at Indy throughout the film.
Yeah,
but it was just this very like. It's so strange to even say it out loud, but it's lighthearted, high-stakes adventure.
Absolutely.
And it was, I would even argue to say that these movies were more easily accessible to our generation as opposed to the Indiana Jones. Because our gen's Indiana Jones was the Kingdom of the Crystal Skulls that was the worst one of the bunch.
Yeah.
And I think there's something to be said about kind of a reimagining, a refleshing of your typical Tomb Raider, Indiana Jones, your adventure exploration movie.
Yeah.
And what this movie did was beautiful, really. Like you said, you nailed it on the head. Brendan Fraser went from like, I couldn't even tier him before this, but this movie was the creme de la creme, right?
Yeah.
The CGI in 1 was great. In 2, I had some issues with the Rock, but that was limitations of the time.
Yeah. Let's slide on to 2.
Okay,
real quick.
Sure.
So then we watched 2. 2 different in tone. But I like where the characters went because you took kind of the attributes of O'Connell and Evie and kind of mixed them up a little bit. Mm-hmm. How Evie was a little bit more of a badass and O'Connell was a little bit more of the
klutz.
The klutz, the thinking, like, this is more than coincidence.
Well, because they've been married now, and they kind of rub off on each other. I think
Absolutely.
It was a good dynamic.
The boy was a little annoying, but he's kind of meant to be.
I mean, the whole thing happened because of his dumbass, but whatever.
But The Rock, let's talk about this. So The Rock, I think inarguably, one of the biggest names in Hollywood today, right? You give a shitty script to The Rock, and it's going to make a big box office.
It's going to bump that letter grade up 1 letter.
Exactly. It's going to be big box office numbers because he draws probably more people to the theater than anybody else these days, right? I think it's fair to say.
Arguably, yeah.
Yeah. And this is his first role. Right?
First kind of bigger role, yeah.
It's kind of funny to see this guy who we know becomes one of the biggest movie stars today, and seeing him kind of in his infancy when it comes to acting, where he only had like 2 lines of dialogue and the short little, what's it called, the intro video, which was extremely well done.
Yeah. The whole story going on in the background of The Mummy 2 was really phenomenal because it didn't feel like, when you're watching a show and it's like flashback and that whole episode's a fucking flashback and you're like, why? I just binged this episode.
Yeah.
It didn't feel forced. It felt very natural and it kind of weaved into the story nicely.
Yeah. It's because you could tell the time had gone by because, like you said, Evie and O'Connell started to rub off on each other a little bit, and they're, like I said, their
and Evie's brother was fucking hilarious too.
He was fucking funny. But the only issue that I have with 2 is that kind of intentionally trying to get you to shed a tear is when Evie got stabbed by an ox on a moon. Like they try to force that. But knowing what goes on in the series with people constantly getting resurrected is like,
it's kind of low stakes at that point.
Yeah.
I think I enjoy both movies. I want to say that first. But I think what 2 was missing was that element of satire that the first one had. Like you said, it was and I'll speak about Kingsman when you get a chance to watch it, because it was the same setup where 1 was kind of this satire and this like self-aware parody of the spy movies, or in this case the explorer movies and mummies as a whole, right? Mm-hmm. And then 2 almost kind of took itself a little too seriously in that manner, and that was kind of my gripe with 2, man. But I see where you're coming from. The whole Evie thing, really unnecessary.
Yeah.
I totally forgot about the scene until you mentioned it.
She was dead for like 5 minutes.
Yeah,
they brought her back.
But
what I will say is that I love the final
confrontation,
final boss stage, because it's such a video game looking area where it's kind of like covered in flames, and there's a section that you can't cross because
it looks like it's straight out of a scene from Mortal Kombat. With the skeletons and the rift.
And like I said, I think they try to do it to make it more of a personal confrontation between Rick and Imhotep when they have the fist fight, which I think is awesome that the whole thing degenerated to a fucking fist fight. But I don't know. I like the 2 more just because I like the more action-y, fun stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, I did miss some of the horror aspects that the original had, because
the creeping around the corner and you hear that.
Yeah, absolutely.
What 2 did really well, I will say though, that horror element was 110% the monkeys in the jungle, and the scarabs that got under your skin. That was fucking terrifying as a kid.
Absolutely. I remember, man, because like I said, these were probably one of my favorite sets of movies growing up because of just how it makes you feel. Makes you feel like you're on an adventure, and I miss that because I don't feel like we don't get that enough with movies these days.
You think we're wearing like rose-colored glasses, the nostalgic glasses?
I don't know. Because I don't know, because it could be that, but I know my parents think pretty highly of these movies too.
When did you see this movie? When was the first time you saw it? Yeah. How old were you?
Shit, dude.
Like 7, 8?
When it came out.
Yeah, because I think I was maybe 5 or 6 when I saw the first or second one, just around there. And I think the movies still hold up pretty well, aside from the
CGI,
Rock.
Yeah.
But that's fair. There was limitations of the time.
Yeah.
But as a whole, the stories make sense. The characters are good. They're well developed. They're fleshed out. And it's kind of this self-enveloping story. It doesn't need countless amounts of sequels, even though it, got the Scorpion King, the prequel, this and that.
Those are more spin-offs.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But it's nice because maybe, I'm just clouded by the judgment of movies today where it's like, oh, it ends up on a cliffhanger. These movies didn't need that.
No.
It was really nice. And I actually showed them to my girlfriend for the first time last year. She's never seen the movies. She really enjoyed all of them.
Yeah.
Well, the first two, I should say.
Yeah, because I was trying to consider whether we were going to talk about the third one. I don't know if we should.
No, definitely not.
Yeah, because it loses all of its charm, and
there's no more shine on it.
Yeah.
You drag it through the dirt and toss it in the dumpster.
And I think that's just to show that it was literally something that was the sum was greater than its parts, because these things needed to go together in order for those things to work out.
I feel like there was a point in time where Egypt was so fascinating when they first uncovered the first mummy in 1906 or something like that, and people were just so captivated by this, like with the first mummy in England, the first mummy in the United States, the curse of Tutankhamun, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like reading about this is one thing, because I'm sure most schools cover that now. It was like Egypt, blah blah blah, the discoveries, shit like that, right? Every school has that Egypt section where you learn about that stuff.
Yeah.
And aside from, I don't know, these two movies and The Prince of Egypt, there's very few good movies based around the Egyptian lore, culture, all that good stuff.
Which is
upsetting. It really is, because there's a lot of good quality stuff in there.
Yeah.
And I'm sure I'm missing probably a handful of movies that I glossed over, but really, the first two Mummy movies and The Prince of Egypt. Can you think of any other standout?
Well, the original Mummy movies were pretty good, but even then, it's kind of a
right.
reach.
But what would you rather watch now? The OG Mummy or this adaptation of the Mummy?
You're right.
Because this one, don't get me wrong, the original, there's something saucy about the title, The Original Mummy, right?
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes the adaptation comes out a little bit better, and I think this is the case.
Yeah, absolutely.
And not to say that Mummy isn't classic, but this is indeed a classic. The Mummy movies with Brendan Fraser.
Absolutely. So yeah, I think that was kind of a good little recap on that. It's a fun series. It doesn't take itself too seriously. If you watch the first two, it is a beautiful combo of 1 and 2. It tells a good story. I like the whole kind
nice jab and across, man.
Yeah,
that's what it is.
I like the little backstory where Evie was kind of a reincarnated princess. That was kind of cool.
Yeah, that was clever, right?
Yeah, it was cute.
I like the train scene with the kid. How
they
captured him. I thought that whole sequence was great.
I like the whole thing where he was annoying the guard, and then the guard takes his knife out and tries to stab him. He's like, "Wow, perfect game!" Gets him right between his fingers. He's like, "What are you talking about? I missed." Yeah, so I had fun watching these again. I have fun every time I watch them, so that's why I just wanted to give them a little bit of love.
Very cool, man.
I know we've talked about it previously, but it's just such a good franchise.
It's you said it the best, man. It's grossly underrated. If you haven't seen them, or if you haven't seen them in a while, go out and watch that shit, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
Totally worth the trouble.
All right, Gabe, this one's you.
Okay, so I read an article the other day talking about how Netflix is kind of capitalizing on this whole serial killer thing. And the article, essentially, I can't remember who it's by, forgive me, but the article went on to say that you shouldn't give people what they want if it's this sort of stuff, whereas this sort of bloody, violent stuff, because you're desensitizing them to it. I think the article makes a good point, because, I don't know, maybe the whole trend was lost in the back of my head, but I do see it now. They're capitalizing on a lot of dark, bloody shit, like the Ted Bundy tapes, Evil Genius, Making a Murder, that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
What's your kind of opinion on this?
I mean, okay, there's always going to be fascination about these things, right? Now, because there's books about this shit, man. You know what I mean? There's documentaries about them. If you really want to know about it, if that piques your interest, it being on Netflix isn't going to change that. You know what I mean?
Here's my thing, and I texted you, I think it was last week, because we were talking about No Russian Mission, right? And I texted you because I totally remember out of the blue, it was totally optional. You didn't have to shoot any civilians.
Yep.
And it was up to you. And that's kind of my point in this, where we're in an age where you can find information on pretty much 90% of whatever you want to learn, right?
Mm-hmm.
If this interests you, then why shouldn't you watch it? I think that at the end of the day, if you're a good person, you have a good heart, I don't think watching a Ted Bundy documentary is going to make you want to go out and kill someone.
Yeah.
I think if you already had that intent, you were going to do it anyway, regardless of this, right?
But this is like the whole argument where does violence in media cause you to do violent things? No. If you're a violent person, you're going to do violent shit one way or another. You know what I mean?
Here's the best example. You and I played Call of Duty, Mortal Kombat, all that shit that parents were worried about in the early days. Mm-hmm. And granted, you and I have had our fair share of dirty street fights and brawls and this and that, right? But we grew up just fine. I'd say we're pretty laid back as opposed to what we were when we were 16, 17, right?
Correct.
We're pretty nonchalant now. But that's just kind of my whole gripe, man. Like, there's always going to be this argument of, does media make kids violent? No. You know what makes kids violent is a whole bunch of other external factors. The way they were raised, parents, a household, a neighborhood, shit, any stuff that's supplementary to that.
You know what's funny about that thing, that thought process though? Because it's 100% correct. These parents that are so quick to blame other things
never look at themselves. Why is it that the video games, the music make your kid violent, but you somehow always find a way to not be the reason for that? You know what I mean? I think it's like this self-doubt thing, man. And you know, I don't want to turn this into how to parent your kids, but there's a lot of truth to that.
But it's because the thing is like, I'm a parent now. You know what I mean? So I think, I'm like, man, dude, is the things that I say, are the things that I watch, the things that I do, does that have a lasting effect on my daughter?
I'm sure it will.
I mean,
but the thing is, she's not like I just said, she's not going to turn into, you know, a mummy after watching the Mummy movies, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's if kids have that separation between fantasy and real world, like, hey, this is entertainment, but there's real world consequences and implications. As long as that line's there, dude, I think we're completely fine.
Because like my parents, I don't know how your parents, you know, described violence and things that happened in the news, but my parents were always very open about the things that happened in the world. I remember watching 9/11 with my dad, and he would tell me like what was going on and what was happening, and you know the what's it called, the consequences of such things, right? And my dad was like, we're probably gonna end up going to war over this and this type of shit. You know what I mean? And I'm a little weird. Don't get me wrong. I am off. I'm not 100%. All my some of my screws are loose, but I feel like you said, that we're fairly reasonable people, right?
Yeah.
And I've never once been compelled to want to kill somebody. I've been playing violent video games literally my whole entire life. My first video game that I played was Mortal Kombat 2, a violent video game. One of the reasons why the rating system exists. I've been listening to
the reason.
Yeah, I've been listening to heavy, chaotic, violent music my whole entire life. I have never once gone out of my way to commit a violent act.
Isn't it weird how a good chunk of like metalheads are really actually like down to earth and like calmed, but that's a totally different topic. But yeah, man, I just think that there's this kind of where to point fingers, and I hate that because there's a clear distinction that I made when I was in high school, and it was like, what separates like a man from a boy? And I can't remember where I picked it up from, but it's like a boy will point and blame as to why something didn't go the way he planned, and a man will stand up and say, I fucked up.
Yeah, I did something wrong.
You know? And I think that's something to take into account. But this whole article thing, I don't know, man. It just kind of peeved me off. It's not so much the violence, the parenting, this and that. I think if you want to go out and learn about something, fucking learn it, man.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, honestly, like, if curiosity, if you want to look it up and it becomes more, then that particular thing that you look up becomes more knowledgeable to you, and you understand why a person did something, or like, the causes and effects of violence and stuff like that, I think you're making yourself a better person because of it. Yeah.
The problem here is ignorance. That if you look at Ted Bundy as nothing but a murderer, I think that's in its own sense a valid stance, but you need to understand that he was also a person, and maybe his story is somewhat relevant, and maybe now that our behavioral units are getting better and our understanding of like brainwaves and chemicals and neurons are getting much better, maybe now we can recognize the signs early, or maybe you can avoid your kid from that early exposure to death and violence, animal abuse and shit like that, because that's trauma, dude. That'll fuck you up.
Yeah.
If you see somebody die before your own eyes.
Yeah.
And like, now let's be proactive about this. Let's not like neglect the issue and point fingers at what is essentially documentaries and dramatizations of events that happened, because you can't change the past.
Yeah, that's done. So yeah, I mean, like I said, I don't. I guess I'll have to. You've met my daughter. You've seen her interact. She's like an incredibly sweet little girl, and I'm a dick sometimes. My wife's an asshole sometimes. You are who you are, right? And there are, like you said, contributing factors to how you were raised and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, if if your child starts to act out based on things that they see from the outside world, media, video games, movies,
should step in.
It's a problem of you, because if your child is that impressionable, then it's your fault. You did something wrong along the way.
Like I said, you got to have that clear line between entertainment or fantasy, really, and real world. Because if you don't, you're going to have Don Quixotes, you're going to have Ted Bundys, you're going to have all this weird, wacky, violent shit you see in the news and on the media and all that stuff.
Absolutely.
And it's really unfortunate that we've kind of come to this. And I feel like now, all right, journalism is a talk for another time. I'm just going to one sentence this. I feel like journalism is now grasping at straws, and any and every point that could be made, somebody is making it, even if it's totally invalid and controversial.
Absolutely.
And I felt that this article had maybe some heart behind it, because it didn't feel like totally like, oh, I'm trying to piss you off. But it's neglecting the whole, how did we get to this point?
Yeah.
And I feel like that's a valid consideration to make.
Absolutely.
And that was actually a pretty good chat.
Yeah, not too bad. All right, so obviously we've covered this at length, but Disney has acquired, finally the deal is finalized with Fox, right? So are you aware that Disney now owns Alien and Predator?
Yeah, we spoke about this when the merger happened 3 weeks ago.
Are you aware that Disney
Ripley is now a Disney princess? Yes, we spoke about this.
No, but I'm saying, but are you also aware that Disney now owns 30% of Hulu?
30%?
Yeah.
I'd believe it.
And it's funny because Adriana was talking about it, and she's like, well, because, I think a lot of people were very quick to blame Netflix for dropping Daredevil, The Punisher.
No, Disney's coming out with its own.
Well, because Disney put the kibosh on that, essentially, is what they did. Disney's like, you ain't getting it. You're done. And Disney, I think, paid $150 million to get out of their Netflix deal early because they are coming out with their own streaming service.
Yeah. And so me and Maddie were talking about this yesterday. We mentioned it. Price is important, but then content. Obviously, they're going to have the MCU movies. Obviously, they're going to have all their vaulted Disney movies.
Yep.
But what about those Disney Channel originals, like even Steven Spielberg of the Future?
I think that's a shoo-in, bro.
Lizzie McGuire. I think that would kind of make it for me, because here's my thing. Any movie I love, I own on a physical copy, and most others I can stream it, right? But what's kind of harder to stream is shit like Lizzie McGuire, even Steven Spielberg of the Future, all the Wizards of Waverly Place, all those Disney Channel shows. Okay, is a bit harder to find. And like those Disney Channel original movies like Johnny Tsunami and Agent Cody Banks and all that like weird stuff out there, you know. Luck of the Irish, remember that?
Luck of the Irish, Miracle on Lane 2.
Yeah, lots of good stuff out there that's been forgotten because now Disney is so massive.
Yeah, cool. So I guess that because they own 30% of Hulu, things that they don't feel fit the mold of their own service. I think I guess Adriana said it was called Disney Plus, which I think is whatever. That they're going to put on Hulu if it doesn't fit, the kind of their portfolio for the whole Disney brand, but it'll be under this new brand and doing its own thing because they own it. They own a large portion. 30% is a very large portion to own of a company. You know what I mean?
Well, of a company's content that they're currently streaming.
Absolutely. So I think it's interesting moving forward, I guess, seeing how Disney just continues to take over the world.
Yeah, man. If Disney and Amazon team up, we're truly screwed. And I have my reservations, maybe because we grew up in Resident Evil, because I always joke and call Amazon Umbrella. But it's when is this mouse going to stop growing is the question. At what point are people going to step in and be like, this is a monopoly, or getting pretty close? That's
what I was telling Adriana. I'm like, with the whole, because I didn't even think about the whole Hulu acquisition of it all. But I'm like, how did that happen? Like, how did we allow that to happen? How did Congress allow that to happen? Well, even then though, because it's going to become a point where Mickey Mouse's glove is going to be in everybody's pot. You know what I mean?
If it's not already.
Yeah. So
man, it's just interesting to see what happens in the next 20, 30 years in our lifetime.
And Disney is salivating from the theme park perspective, is salivating and waiting for that Marvel deal to end with Universal Studios. They are waiting with beta because they're gonna blow up, blow it up, make a whole world of it. You have Iron Man hanging out and all that good stuff.
Hey, maybe we'll get like a little alien shop or something, or like a ride at Disney. I think that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, that'd be kind of cool.
A little something for the older people.
Yeah, I just think
Ripley is still my favorite Disney princess. You say what you want. Yeah, man, it's interesting times we're coming to, because if you would have told me 10 years ago, or shit, even 5 years ago, that Disney is now like most of the market, I would have been like, yeah, okay.
Yeah. Well, I think it was always within the realm of possibilities, but I just never thought we would get this far. You know what I mean? I never thought it would actually happen.
Spooky dookie.
Yep.
And I'm just glad to say that like the Alien movies and the Deadpools, they're going to keep their mature ratings. I'm glad Disney didn't decide to mouse that up, you know?
Yeah, I got you.
So
fair enough.
Man. What's up next?
All right, so we're in gaming. Let's talk about some gaming news.
Yeah. So I think this is the 11th straight we've talked about Mortal Kombat. Got 2 new characters this week, Collector and Centurion. Centurion, right?
Centurion.
Talk to me about Centurion.
So I guess Game Informer got the leak, or they got the exclusive on her. Basically, what she is she's an elder god. Mm-hmm. Phil asked why she's gassed up. That's why, because she's an elder god. She's supposed to be powerful as fuck. Seems to be a master of the elements, right? A little bit of airbender thing going on with that, which basically confirms to me that we're not getting Fujin, because I saw her throw wind. But so yeah, she's an elder god, and her gameplay, at least based on what we saw, is very zoning friendly. She is going to be the character that you are not going to be able to get in on, and if you do,
but keep away.
Yeah, and if you do, you gotta fucking make her feel it, because she's gonna kick your ass. Design wise, she looks very Injustice-y, right? She looks kind of like Poison Ivy did in Injustice, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. I think the visuals of Injustice were one of its finer points, and I guess we'll see moving forward. I was kind of shocked because I know every Mortal Kombat has its new characters, right? Unless it's 9, in which case it didn't.
We got a decent chunk of new characters at this point.
Yeah, it's not too bad. I was a little shocked by that. I expected them to go
maybe 2 or 3, right?
Yeah, I was expecting them to be leaning a little bit more on the older characters.
But we've got 4 confirmed and 5 as like a big question mark at the moment
for new characters.
Yeah, because we got Garrus, Collector, Centurion.
That's it. Oh, I guess Scarlet technically, because she's not DLC in this one.
Sure, Scarlet, and then the big baddie, Cronus.
Kronika might not be.
Yeah. Well, that's why I'm saying question mark.
Yeah. So, I think it's interesting.
Well, we got 4 last time. We got Aaron Black, Ferritor, Kotal Khan, Devora.
And the Combat Kids. That was 8.
Oh, and the Combat Kids. 8. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. So.
Ooh. Yeah, man. So. NetherRealm Studio taking some leaps.
Yeah, and it's funny because I feel like these 2 new characters that we got are like the total opposites of each other.
Yeah.
Where, like I said, where I feel Centurion is very DC.
Keep away.
Yeah, that not just that, but like she looks like an Injustice character, and then you have Collector,
which is well overdue in that design.
Yeah, which is who is probably the more Mortal Kombat looking character I've seen since Baraka. You know what I mean? He is
phenomenal.
The Mortal Kombat character. And it looks cool, man. He looks real cool. He looks like he's gonna fit my style a little bit more. I like me and Phil had a little roasting session about you when it came to that whole thing.
I don't. They said that Collector looks like a character I'd play.
Yeah.
Why?
Well, because when he said it, I'm like, yeah, because I could tell you imagine going like as him. That's what came to my mind. But then we just roll with it, I guess. I don't know, but he's kind of like the jack of all trades as far as gameplay wise. He looks like he has a little bit of tools for a little bit of every engagement.
He looks like he's going to be fun to play, like a Rushdown version of.
Yeah, absolutely. And very interesting gameplay elements involved in all of that. More levels have been revealed. They have that boat looking level, which looks absolutely fucking phenomenal.
Great.
They have done great jobs with our team. Has fucking really, really knocked it out of the park with this fucking game. With that, we got some Aaron Black footage. I don't know if you've seen that yet. He looks like Aaron Black.
That's good. You know, I like him.
Yeah, he looks like Aaron Black. He has some interesting looking mechanics. A little bit of my noob. We got. It was a very productive week as far as the Mortal Kombat.
So we got a week left.
Yeah,
a couple days.
A week or 2 are left, I think.
It's the 12th. No,
I don't know if it's that soon. Hold on, let me look.
4/12 or 4/19.
I think it might be the 19th, but let me look.
Yeah. I really like the design that they took with Collector. Like you said, he is
23rd.
23rd.
Yep.
Okay, so 2 weeks.
A couple more weeks.
He is like the Mortal Kombat character.
Yeah.
Since I would even say since like Scorpion Sub-Zero, like those are the Mortal Kombat, OG characters. But like this is the new generation of MK.
Yeah.
And it's almost kind of sad that it took this long. He looks to me like your typical RPG like merchant guy.
Yeah.
You go to him and buy stuff because he has all these arms and he's the collector and his fatality. He collects your head, puts it in his backpack.
Well, that's like this whole gimmick because I guess the lore behind it is that he's somebody who was around. He's a old character. He's been in the background.
So like the collector from Marvel that's just been kind of lurking around.
Yeah. He's been around since the beginning. Basically, he was like an OG Shao Kahn regime guy, and Shao Kahn liked him because he was very he's from a what's it called, a race of people where their name is their occupation. So he's like a tax collector. He's a collector. So he collects items and relics and magic and all this stuff that he comes across.
Maybe this will be the first time you get to beat the living shit out of a tax collector in a video game.
But so that's kind of the whole lore behind it. Because I guess it makes sense. Shao Kahn's role is not Shao Kahn that we know, from the
right. We only have past version Shao Kahn, not a present.
Yeah, because he's he's conquering at this point. He's still moving from realm to realm at this point, where he's like he hasn't conquered everything in front of him. He's like moving.
He's not truly the Khan.
Yeah, he's not Shao Kahn yet, which is kind of explains his design, which I think is interesting. So I think that's kind of his whole lore based on it. And I think it's interesting moving forward. I have mixed feelings about they were there the whole time, like with the whole Blaze thing and Armageddon. Oh, he was in the background.
See, that was a cop out for a new boss though, but I think this collector thing kind of makes sense.
Yeah,
it's definitely a little bit more fleshed out than Blaze was.
Absolutely.
And we kind of spoke about it. I don't think Armageddon was, and they claim they wanted to end Mortal Kombat there. I just think they used Armageddon as an excuse to get rid of all the trash.
No, I think you honestly, dude, I've never considered it like that before, but when you said it, I'm like, that's it.
What would be better than everybody dies and who is it? Blaze and Tagon left, right? And then it's reset, fresh time for a fresh new start. And I want to believe they wanted to end it there because they had a good run. But come on, Mortal Kombat is the main moneymaker for NetherRealm Studios, and especially back then, that was
Midway
cash cow.
Yeah, that was Midway. Yep.
And so that's just kind of my approach to it, where Armageddon may not have been the best game, but it did have some cool things that it brought to the table, and you could play as everyone, which is, on paper, a cool aspect. But it was garbage collection at the end of the day. Yeah, it was your garbage men coming around, and you're just putting all those bags in front of your lawn right now. That's all it was to me. Yeah,
because we haven't. Let's think about it. As far as the 3D era of games, who do we have that's been in the game proper? Like Kenshi and
that's still around right now.
Yeah,
because I have a couple of people I liked.
But I'm saying as far as them being around, like Kenshi made it. Baraicho had a little cameo. Tanya had a little cameo. But who's who's really there from that era of game?
I guess you could say the fleshed out version of Scarlet, because prior, she was only a costume palette swap.
Yeah, but there's that, and I don't know, man. Because like I said, like you said, the whole trash can thing was like the ultimate. Noob Saibot was from 3.
Oh yeah, you're right.
Yeah. Fuck. So was technically Scarlet. She was technically from 3 too, as this palette swap.
Yeah, man. But there's some gems I'd like to pick out of the trash.
Who?
Off the top of my head, I think Chameleon can make a comeback. I think Chameleon would be.
She was from 3. Or he and she were from 3. So that's not 3D era. That's still not 3D era.
I know you don't like him, but I think Movato's design is cool. And I think we need a new... Red Dragon. Yeah. I think he would fit the story. You wouldn't necessarily have to make him super playable.
Okay.
I think he has some cool mechanics, like the hook swords for one, and where he shoots out his arms.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah, it was absolutely ridiculous, but I think it's cool nonetheless.
You know who he needs to bring back, bro?
Who?
Mocap. All right, let's move on. So yeah, that's our Mortal Kombat talk for the week. My bad.
Cool. So you sent me this article.
I did.
That I had partially read.
Me too.
And so this whole BioWare Anthem thing. Yeah. So I think it's fair to say the game flopped, and there's been a bunch of big gaming studio games that have flopped so far this year. Fallout 76, Anthem, blah blah. So you know the situation better than I do. Talk to me about it.
So basically, this this writer, did a kind of a write-up on the whole thing, on the whole situation, basically on what went wrong. All right. Basically the gist of it, and I don't mean to summarize it too hard, but basically the situation is that this was a game that was in production for 7 years, right? And basically the first 6 years with them just dicking around, going back and forth with ideas, not committing to any direction at all, ever. And by the time, because EA caught a lot of flack for this whole thing, right? But by the time, the time was up, and EA is like, we need a game. We've invested a lot of money into this project, and you guys have nothing. We need a game. So you better figure it out. Basically, at that point, they had about 1.5 years left of development. From what the article said, the people at BioWare didn't even know what the game was when that trailer at E3 dropped a couple years ago in 2017. They're like, that's the game, and that's what we got to finish. That's what we got to work on. Because there was such lack of direction, lack of leadership on BioWare's part, and that they couldn't agree on 2 things at a time.
I think you said it plain and clear. if you've ever been in like a managerial position or a position of maybe a little bit more power at work, you know that if people are fucking around, they either are like that, which most of the cases in the time, or B, they have no sense of direction or urgency or what to do at the moment. And I think that it pains me to say it, but I think that's what happened to BioWare.
Yeah.
Where they had a little bit too much freedom on the leash.
Yeah.
And there was nothing to reel them back. There was maybe there was goals for like movement or like big picture stuff, but nothing like clean and precise that you should be working towards, and no defined like time goals. And I can't vouch for that because I wasn't there, but that's exactly what it sounds like.
Yeah.
When you have, shit, man, let's use UPS for an example. If people don't know what to be doing, you're going to go from clean to very unclean like that in a fucking heartbeat.
Yeah.
Because one thing goes wrong, you're not prepared for it, boom, you're donezo.
Yeah.
You're not getting out of there before 11 o'clock.
Yeah.
And this is exactly what it sounds like. That the meltdown here was, maybe they said, do a passion project, or maybe do something that you guys would like to do, or something that you would like to develop. And there was too much going on at once, and not enough clear defined goals, timelines, and shit like that.
Well, from what I understand, that they had interviews for people from the inside, and then they would have meetings about Anthem, because Anthem was supposed to be the next big thing. It's supposed to be right? It's supposed to be the next big project. And they would have meetings, and they would just bat stuff back and forth, and nothing would get decided. For months on end, they would do this. So that nothing would ever get decided. And another thing that I thought was interesting about the article and what was explained is that they were not allowed to talk about other projects outside of the BioWare umbrella as far as comparison. So, like Destiny, you weren't allowed to talk about Destiny at these BioWare meetings. When in actuality, this game which is very comparable to Destiny in a lot of the mechanics and a lot of the visual aspects of it all, they weren't allowed to take what Destiny did and learn from it.
It's one thing to take elements and copy and paste them, but it's a whole other thing to take something you enjoyed out of a game and not implement it like super directly, but improve upon it and make it your own. Yeah. And make that feature part of the game's identity, as opposed to, hey, this was copy and pasted because we like it. Yeah. You know?
And the sad thing is, like I said, if they were actually allowed to talk about Destiny and learn what Destiny did and kind of take that and maybe have a direction, then maybe the game would have been better. But because they weren't allowed to compare it, they weren't allowed to look at it, they weren't allowed to talk about it, they were just kind of aimlessly wandering, right? Now, what I will say, on the people who designed the game, who created the game, physically created it, not the leadership at BioWare, to do what they did in a year and a half,
impressive,
is extremely impressive.
It is a feat of a 90-hour work week every week for 6 months straight.
Absolutely. And they should get all the credit in the world for being able to put something on the table
that wasn't complete crap,
that wasn't fucking bugged out and complete crap.
They cranked out a working game that looked good and for the most part felt good. Yeah. It was just lacking serious content.
So yeah, it was a big void as far as content goes. And like I said, I mentioned that about the whole E3 trailer. These guys at BioWare did not even know it was a looter shooter until this trailer dropped. They didn't know the game that they were working on for all this time. 7 years of development, and they didn't learn shit about what the game was, where it was going, what's the grand scheme, story, what the fuck is that? You know what I mean? Like, nobody knew anything. And it's sad because BioWare used to be
the studio,
one of the biggest studios on the planet.
Baldur's Gate, Knights of the Old Republic, you name it.
They did it.
Mass Effect.
Yeah. So it's sad to see the lack of leadership from BioWare itself.
The fall from grace, really.
Yeah, and like I said, I'm not gonna point fingers at the people who tried their damnedest to create these games.
Don't blame your programmers, your coders, your artists.
It wasn't
blame the people above them.
Yeah,
because clearly there was no leadership, no sense of direction, and that I had a teacher that always said the mother of all fuck ups is the lack of preparation. Yeah, and I think that is very applicable.
And it's so funny because there was a story about it, where the head of EA came down to BioWare to play kind of like a test run of the game. He was like, this sucks, right? And like they have gone back and forth whether the game was going to include flying or not, right? So they designed the game not to. They decided that they weren't going to have flying, right? They weren't going to do it. And then the head of EA game's like, what happened to the flying? So everybody who worked on those levels that were meant to be played a certain way had to redo all their work just so it can incorporate this element that the guy above said that he wanted done. So people were saying, like, we would work on stuff for months on end, and then it would get to the next meeting, and then they would just toss it. Months and months of work.
What a waste of time.
Yeah, just a fucking waste of time. of talented people, again, who put this game together and made it functional. Just a tremendous waste of time and a big flop. And EA knew that they had trash, and I'm not going to try to make this another EA bashing session, but they knew they had trash, and they let that shit fly, and that's not cool, man.
This is tying back to one of our very old arguments where why don't you have people who are passionate and have a creative vision maybe not take control of all the reins, but step in? Because I promise you there's somebody out there that had a much better idea than Anthem, that had a moneymaker of a game, that had ideas and concepts and stuff. And this person is just, a civilian at the end of the day.
Yeah, and what another thing, well, there was a particular individual, and I wish I remembered his name because I gave him a shout out, because apparently near like when the deadline was looming, EA put somebody in charge, and BioWare put somebody in charge who really put the fucking
down.
Yeah, put the fucking work in, and to try to make the game as functional as possible. So props to that guy. But another thing that was just so disgusting on kind of the practices that they were using, these people at BioWare who were working on this game would get pulled off Anthem to work on FIFA and Madden and all these properties that they know is going to make them money, when they know that the property that they're currently working on was not prepared and not ready for that level of abandonment, or that particular track was not ready for that to be abandoned or moved on from. They knew it. But they're going to look at FIFA as the moneymaker. They're going to keep dumping shit into Madden because they know no matter what, every year they're always going to buy that shit and they're going to eat it up, and they're going to put $1 million into my ultimate team and all that stupid bullshit. You know what I mean? I don't know, man. There's just a lot. It was just a failure from the top, but basically from the top. Because like I said, these people bust their ass and try to put a functioning game out there. And
it's sad.
It's sad. Yeah.
It really is. Coming from BioWare.
Yeah.
Truly a fall from grace. And neither of us bought Anthem, and shit, dude, I'd be surprised if that game tried to have a turnaround.
It's not going to make it out of the year, dude. It's going to be fucking dust.
Yeah. Well, I spoke to you lightly about how Battlefront 2, the devs are like regaining control over it, and there's like no more loot. All the loot boxes are purely cosmetic now. None of it has to do with game-breaking stuff. And that game's kind of made a turnaround, but it's a little too late.
Yeah.
And it's that aspect.
It's very hard to bounce back from bad press like that.
Absolutely.
It's super
hard.
Was
arguably the hardest flop in a very long time, video game-wise.
Not anymore. With Anthem is probably the biggest one, because it was a AAA title that everybody was looking forward to. I had a lot of buddies that I'm like, I don't know, it just didn't fit my vibe. It had a very Destiny feel look to me, which is why I strayed away from it. And it turns out, man, it's kind of in the same ballpark. Where at least Destiny was a game that was done, but they had content ripped out to sell it later to you. This was a situation Destiny was a situation of just bad practices. This was a demonstration of what not to do, and lack of leadership and lack of fucking know-how on how to do the job. And that's very just sad.
Cool. Yeah. Not very cool, but
yeah.
Oh, Battlefront 2 has an Ewok hunt mode where you play it on Endor, and one team is these little Ewoks, and the other team is stormtroopers.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, and the Ewoks have traps set up all over the place. It's terrifying and scary at the same time. Anyway, what is our next talking point here?
Borderlands. Did you hear about this?
Yes, I did.
So Borderlands
3. Borderlands 3 is going to be a Epic exclusive for 6 months. I have some gripes. I thought Borderlands and Valve, Steam had a very good relationship. I truly did. I get the move.
It's not
Epic gives them more money.
Yeah, that's
important, because you got to feed your developers, you got to feed the company. And Gearbox is not the same studio it was when Borderlands 1 came out 10 years ago, right? Mm-hmm. Here's the thing that concerns me. Epic is not a consumer-friendly store. There's no cloud saving. Returns are a pain in the ass to get. There's not as much features. There's no friend chat. It's seriously lacking as a platform is the big deal here, right? And Steam is the best gaming platform on PC, period.
The standard, yeah.
It is the gold standard.
Yep.
And Epic is a disgusting knockoff of that.
Is it worse than Origin?
Origin is much better than Epic.
Wow, really?
I think the Origin launcher is quite nice. It has decent features, but it's not quite as there as Steam is. But Epic is kind of gross, man. And you got to look at both sides of this argument, because as a developer, if you're going to sell millions of copies of this game, that's a lot of change. That's a lot of guap, because I think Epic gives 12% and Steam gives under 10%, way under 10%, 7.
Yeah, I think that's about right.
And that's a big chunk of change if you're planning to sell 2 million copies.
Yeah.
And I understand the decision. That doesn't mean I like it.
Yeah.
But I think the big thing here to know and understand is that it's not Epic exclusive, period. It's just launching on Epic first.
Yep.
And my philosophy for a lot of these games is wait and see, because something is going to look promising and it's going to entice you to buy it and you're going to want to get it, but it may not be that. And I don't think that's the case with Borderlands, but if you're on this Epic boycott, just wait the 6 months, man. Borderlands ain't going to go anywhere.
This is true.
And that's the thing.
Borderlands has a community that's going to maintain that game forever.
I'm still playing Borderlands 1. Me and my buddy are doing another playthrough in preparations for 3.
Yep.
Borderlands has a fucking strong following, and I think if people band together and they say, we can wait, I think Gearbox will get the picture.
Yeah, and they got their money anyway, so what do they care, right?
Well, if it doesn't sell as well,
yeah,
then that's also a thing, right?
Well, so the deal, so the deal with Steam is that it's less developer friendly, right? It's more user friendly, right? That's like the thing.
It is the best user friendly thing ever, period. But the developers don't get a big of a chunk. The Epic Game Store has this broken ass system, right? Where the developer can opt in for ratings and comments. You do not have to have ratings and comments. So if you know your game is garbage, you just click disable. But if you know your game's good, you hit enable ratings and comments.
Wow.
That's hot trash. You could literally opt in and out of that.
Yeah.
Let that sink in.
That's gross.
and Steam reviews are, for the most part, honest. You know, you could tell what kind of community this game has. It'll tell you right there.
Yep.
It'll tell you recent reviews and overall reviews. And that's kind of important to have.
Interesting, man.
Yeah, so I want to get it, but we'll see.
Yep.
We will have to see, and it's kind of unfortunate.
All right, Gabe, did you get anything for this game this week?
Yes. Okay, so I was kind of browsing around for this, right? And so as a rehash, these are quotes from movies that would make good song titles. And I found something kind of, sort of. So it's Godfather quotes, but a nice chunk of these are actually from the book. And so obviously the first one is I'll make an offer you can't refuse. I think that one is self-explanatory.
Absolutely. Great
men are not born great, they grow great. It's a bit of a mouthful, but Bring Me the Horizon has, I read about girls like you on the back of bathroom stalls. Or No Need for Introductions, I read about girls like you on the back of bathroom stalls. Never hate your enemies, it affects your judgment. That's pretty interesting. That'd be a good Kublai Khan song.
Yeah.
Revenge is a dish that tastes best when served cold. A little bit of a stretch. A man who doesn't spend time with his family can never be a real man.
Yeah.
I like this one. This one's probably my favorite of the bunch. The lawyer with a briefcase can steal more money than a man with a gun.
Facts. That's going.
Yeah,
like that.
That's a really good one.
Damn. Godfather, man, had such good lines.
Yeah.
Fuck.
Accidents don't happen to people who take accidents as a personal insult. Yeah. And those are kind of the majority of the ones. There's some paragraphs of quotes from Godfather. Yeah. But I thought those were the kind of nice standout ones. And part of me could probably give you a Tarantino quote album. I thought this Godfather one had some pretty strong ones, though.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, man. That was kind of a fun game. We should bring it back around.
Yeah, we'll see what we can do with it. All right. Let's go ahead and move on to music. You do this. This is your thing.
Music news and reviews. Thank you. All right. So you did the Whitechapel review, The Valley.
Yeah, I did. So dug into it, and I told you last week when I reviewed I Prevail that it was either this one or that one. And
you decided to do both.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I knew which one I was going to get to first because I told you last week that I kind of knew what I was getting, right? Now, yeah, you know what you're getting. They do have elements that they've introduced recently. I think they've had cleans in the last album as well. But at the end of the day, bro, I mean, I wish I had more to say about it. I tried, but it's a Whitechapel album, bro.
I think we're almost underappreciating the face value of that because, yeah, it's what you expect. That's also the good side of the album. It is a Whitechapel album.
Yeah.
And maybe you and I like innovation and progression a little bit more. Maybe we don't because Bring Me the Horizon. But there's people out there that would throw a fucking riot if Whitechapel did
Suicide Silence.
Yeah. And yeah, there's not much to be said, but I think it says for itself, The Valley, that it's another Whitechapel album. And if you enjoy that, then you should definitely go check it out.
Tim said to Adam one time, because Tim was talking about Tim Strezzo. he was talking about Rise Against, and Adam's like, well, what does it sound like? Tim's like, sounds like Rise Against. You know what I mean?
A formula, they stick to it.
It sounds like a Rise Against album. So, yeah, but yeah, I mean, like, it's not bad. It's all right. It's definitely not gonna make any of my lists or none of that. It's just another album that maybe I'll come on and maybe I'll like a couple songs, but at the end of the day, you know, ultimately it's a skip for me. I'm not gonna give it a rating because I don't have strong enough opinions going out the way about it.
That's absolutely fair.
Yep. So
that is absolutely fair. So our buddies in Knocked Loose dropped a single this week.
They did.
Called Mistakes Like Fractures. First of all, I think that song title is excellent.
That's
A+ on that.
That's good.
Did you listen to it?
I did.
What'd you think?
They're not rewriting, not rewriting the book or not, changing the wheel or better. Basically, it's a better mousetrap. So those are my metaphors of the day. It sounds like a good Not Loose song that's going to get you amped and get the show going. And you and I talked about the I Killed the Prom Queen sound. They have a very distinct guitar sound as well, right? Yeah. So
yeah,
I liked it
and those pedals. And here's my thing: I really like this single, and my only kind of gripe with it is that like lull point where they wait. But if you're knocked loose, you're going to need that because they kill themselves on stage every day.
Yeah.
It's knocked loose, but it's not laugh tracks. And I think that's an important distinguisher to make here because it would be very easy for them to rewrite laugh tracks.
For me, you know what, like there's some bands that you have to listen to the album to get the full effect. And Knocked Loose is one of those bands to me.
You think so?
They're not like a strong single band, but they're a band that you listen to one whole album, you're like, that was awesome.
You don't like Dead Ringer as a single?
It's a good single.
Or Oblivion's Peaks?
They're good, but like I said, outside of them, they're not gonna.
I think you're underselling Knocked Loose here.
They're the singles are good, but like I said, they're not gonna blow you away. Like there's singles out that exist for other bands that just like blow you out of the fucking water.
Have you ever seen a Knocked Loose pit when Dead Ringer comes on?
Yes, I have. I have, but I'm saying like. You have to listen to the album to get the full effect for them, I think, because the way songs blend together is like important to them. How
they transition,
how they transition, and even in their set, they emphasize that. You know what I mean? Maybe it's a hardcore thing because I think a lot of hardcore albums are like that. You know what I mean? Where
it depends on the artist.
Yeah, but
you could say the same thing about Pink Floyd or Bring Me the Horizon.
Yeah,
but
I don't know. No, because even then, Bring Me the Horizon had singles that transcend their fucking albums.
Like what?
It Never Ends.
You think that one single is better than the whole album as a whole?
I'm saying that it's a proper representation of who they were on that particular album. Doesn't transcend the album, but it's a proper representation of the album as a whole.
Okay.
Then that's why I think that's where Knocked Loose doesn't have that kind of level. Maybe they don't have the stock yet to kind of have that, but I like it. It's definitely a good song, but we'll have to see what else they turn out in the context of the whole album for me. But it's definitely a good song. It's fun.
I quite like it. They sold out all the. They pressed the single on a 7-inch vinyl. Mm-hmm. They sold that out, and like Garrett from Silent Planet was like, "Oh, congrats guys," and Bobby Lynch, ex Fit for a King, was like, "Oh my god, I'm so proud of you."
Yeah,
it's nice to see that Knocked Loose is pals. I love seeing bands being friendly with each other. Yeah, that's nice to see in the scene.
Absolutely. So it's definitely good, and I think
I'm excited to see this one live.
Yeah,
I really like this single. I think it's nice.
It's going to be real dirty.
Lots of good lines in there, and I think the guitar work is arguably heavier in this instantiation. It's definitely more in your face.
Yep.
And man, you said it. They got that like signature sound with 2 albums and an EP.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy, and I'm excited. We'll see what these guys come out with, but honestly, Brian Garris is our age, give or take. And he's cranking out music like this, and his 2 other brothers are too. And legend says that if you get all 3 Garrises in the same mosh pit, like the world will collide with the moon or something like that. But yeah, should be fun, man. I'm excited. After hearing the single, I got a good feeling about this album, and I don't want to say anything preemptive about my album of the year list, but I'm sure this will make the cut. At least the initial cut. Let's say that.
Cool.
Let's talk about Dayseeker.
So another band that I have invested interest in Dayseeker. I know you like them, but for me, there's something about them that I find really
sexy and attractive.
Sexy, yeah, relatable. To kind of how I grew up, like the Jacob style, right?
Your flavor of metalcore.
Absolutely. So they came out with a new single. It's called Crooked Soul. First off, I don't know if have you seen this single cover by chance? Let me see.
I have not yet. No.
Let me see.
It's nice and pretty.
It's very beautiful.
Wow, I like that. I like the vaporwave aesthetic, that purple and blue. I'm a sucker for that.
It's very beautiful. I'll tell you, John. I hanged it up on my wall. But so I listened to the single. They have some architectsy. They sound more architects than they did before. Mm-hmm. Now, with that being said, we talked about last week about I Prevail and how their vocals are very robotic and soulless.
Right. They transitioned from the drummer being the robot to the clean vocalist being the robot.
Exactly. Absolutely. Dayseeker does not have that problem. This guy has a fucking soul. And
we saw that at Warped Tour.
You fucking feel it. And there's not a whole lot. They have screams. They have like a breakdown-esque section in the song. But mainly it's him just fucking belting out his fucking heart. And you can feel it. You can hear it in his voice, the raspiness. It feels very organic and very good. You said that you were kind of sitting on the sideline, sitting on the bench, waiting to see where Knocked Loose will fall on your album of the year. And it's kind of the inverse here, because I am looking to see if Dayseeker can potentially knock something out of the park this year with their upcoming release. I'm looking forward to these guys. I have a very close eye on what they're doing, and I'm amped about it. I'm jazzed about it.
If my 2019 album waitlist is correct and they're on schedule for this year, I think everything will fall into place and the stars will align.
Yeah. I think, which is kind of an upside, because I do have a review coming up, and I didn't put it on here, but I do have a review coming up next after you finish your next topic.
Cool.
But I'm excited to see what Dayseeker does, because, I don't know what it is, dude. You probably know better than I, because you're a bystander, you're a guy on the outside looking in about how I relate to this band. I don't know what it is. It's an untangible thing to me right now.
There's this theory I have, right, where everybody has their own favorite pizza place. Mm-hmm. And it's usually something that was relatively close and accessible, and it was something that hits your funnies, right? Like, we had Triano's. I brought it over to your place once. And you didn't love it.
Yeah, it was
right?
okay. Yeah.
It was okay. Me, Maddie, and a lot of my close friends, we love that shit. There's something special about that pizza. And I think it's this mentality that everybody has something they're looking for, whether it be in music, pizza, movies, whatever it may be, right? There's always that something you're on the lookout for. There's always something that really tickles your funny bone like that. And I think Dayseeker hits most, if not all, your check boxes for your metalcore, because you say you don't like cleans in a metalcore song. You say you don't like this and that. You take the pretty out of metalcore, and like Devil Wears Prada, like Death Throne was the best, shit like that. But it's really not that. It's the way it's wrapped and packaged and presented, because I think, maybe that dirty, grimy, deep shit is more accessible, but it takes a lot more sanding, polishing, and top coating.
I like how you put.
Seriously, it takes a lot of work to make metalcore pretty and to make it properly pretty.
Yeah.
Because we can name a dozen bands right now that artificially inject cleans, because that is a metalcore standard.
Wage war.
But you know what I'm saying? It's like almost this checkbox you have to hit now, when it's really not. Metalcore is very malleable in its substance and its genre.
Gabe's favorite word of all time is malleable. You say it at least once per podcast.
actually, there's a couple other words I put over that.
But,
yeah. I think that's what it is, man. It's just, you know what I mean? Like, you can. I'm gonna go back to this woodworking thing, because I think it makes a lot of sense. You could sand something once or twice, put a top coat on it, and say you're done. Or you could take the time. You could sand with every grit going up to the 2000 grit and make it fucking beautiful.
Put that gloss on it.
Put that gloss top coat,
and
then you're done. And there's a noticeable difference between quality. And I think that's what it is.
That's where Dayseeker's at right now, dude.
Because I don't think you dislike clean vocals. I just think you dislike the artificialness of it.
It has to.
This disingenuity.
It has to be organic. You have to feel it. It has to make sense in the context of the song.
Like the yellow wallpaper, right?
Yeah. It has to make sense in the You cannot put it in here because you're like, okay, this is where our chorus goes. That's not how it works, dude. It needs to feel organic to the song. If the song calls for a clean chorus, that's where it should be. It should not be, okay, well, this is where we do it. This is where we put our part. This is where we put the cleans. This is where
If you need an example of what we're talking about, look at the entirety of They're Only Chasing Safety.
Yeah.
I'd say it's 60-40 clean to scream.
Yeah.
But the cleans feel like they were always there. They weren't an afterthought.
Yeah.
And that's why it's a good album.
Yeah.
Well, that and many other aspects. Yeah. But that's kind of what we're getting at here.
Absolutely.
And that's what it is.
Because even with Wage War is probably the prime example of this, where it's like, yes, it's good, but we need to have our clean vocalist. We need to have our cleans in it because our clean vocalist.
Hey, we're paying him to do something.
Well, that is he's a talented guy, so we need to make sure he gets highlighted. Like, there needs to be a line drawn, a distinction, and Dayseeker found that distinction. I think it's important.
I gotcha. We spoke about WageWar before, but they do very good generic metalcore. And sometimes if you're not looking for anything special, it's okay.
You're looking for something to dip your toe into, WageWar is okay. But for me, I'm looking for something.
Yeah, if you've been in the scene and the genre for long enough, you're looking for that new thing, the thing around the corner, and you want to be first to the pot of gold.
Yep.
Good stuff. So
I recommend this, by the way. Please check it out for me.
Absolutely. Dayseeker, keep your eye on. They put a phenomenal live show. And that's even when they cut their set
in half. Yeah.
Not in half. They
separated it.
They separated part one from part two.
Yeah. So
good stuff. Upon a Burning Body is doing 3 shows in Texas, back to back. It's a hometown show, and on the last one in San Antonio, their hometown, that is the album drop show.
Oh, cool.
So right around the corner, that's June 7th or 8th, I believe those shows are. So I'm excited for this album.
Do we have a single yet? No, we don't have a single.
No, we don't have a single. I'm thinking 1 or 2 singles max. That's all. Think about it. That's all they have time for, unless they're going to drop one every week leading up to it, which wouldn't make sense, or one every other week, right?
Yeah.
They've been kind of quiet about it, and that's okay.
Yeah.
I think Upon a Burning Body is vocal through their music and not through their media presence.
Yeah, they need to. They're one of those bands that doesn't need, like you said, the promotion necessarily, because their music speaks for themselves, right? So
if you know them, you know why people enjoy them.
Absolutely. Yeah.
There's a difference between a party band and a party song, and that's. I feel like people will gonna go out and say, "Oh well, you guys don't like Attila. Why do you like Upon a Burning Body?" Because there's a clear distinction between a party band and having a couple party songs.
Yeah.
And Upon a Burning Body is towards that right, a couple of party songs.
Yeah, because I feel like Attila can't write a serious song. Like, they can't.
I'm sure they have a couple out there. We just haven't gotten to them. But when a majority is, like this whole Alex Jones thing, and I don't mean to compare the two, but when most of what you put out is like Call Out and Pizza and this and that, the genuine stuff gets lost, you know?
Fair enough, yeah. You're right. All right, so.
And so, yeah, I'm excited for that. All their merch is on clearance now. Their old tour stuff is on clearance. T-shirts, $10, dude. Hop on that. They have some good looking merch.
Absolutely.
I never appreciated beforehand. I'm excited.
Good stuff, man.
Probably going to be, unless something else is coming up sooner, this is probably one of the bigger on my anticipated list.
Absolutely.
I'm excited to see where it lands.
Cool. All right, so I did not put this review on here because I kind of wanted it to be a surprise.
Cool.
Gabe, how familiar are you with an artist named Billie Eilish?
Here and there. I've heard some of her stuff before, but I know internet's freaking out over this new album.
So, because they did freak out over the new album, and I actually came up in my store or whatever, and the album cover was very striking to me, and I looked deeper into it. I'm like, well, she's a pop artist, so this is kind of weird looking, the comparativeness of it all. I'm like, all right, fine. Let me give it a listen, because you know me. I am the furthest away from
radio top 40 hits.
Yeah, wanting pop in my life as possible, right? So I gave the album a download, and I've been listening to it passively the last couple of days. And the initial impressions are that this is a fantastic fucking album. Because it takes pop, and pop is a very easy formula, right? It takes that, and it kind of flips it on its head. It has darker tonality to it all, right? Pop is very bubblegum. This doesn't have those characteristics to it. It has a song called Zanny where it sounds like somebody's drugged. Like the music droops. It gets very bass heavy at certain parts because it's kind of letting you know, it's kind of putting you in that mindset of somebody who's under the influence of something. And it's interesting. I definitely like it. She has a very distinct voice. Mm-hmm. And like I said, there's very few pop artists that I get behind. Obviously Bruno Mars I get behind because he's a tremendously talented.
He's our Michael Jackson.
Yeah, he's a tremendously talented individual. I love Rihanna. I don't give a fuck what anybody says. I love
Rihanna too.
I love her.
Maroon 5, I would say.
Yeah, yes or no. Sometimes
you can't deny Adam Levine's talent, though.
Oh, absolutely. No, you can't. You can't. That would be wrong. I like Ellie Goulding. Like, there's very few.
Oh, wow, you like Ellie Goulding?
Yeah, there's very few pop artists.
That British accent does something to me.
Is she Australian?
No, she's British.
Okay, I could be wrong. So this girl created a piece of music that's very interesting, that breaks the mold of what most people are looking for when it comes to pop, and she kind of took it and made it her own and did something different. Granted, it is still very early in the year, and there's albums that I'm looking forward to way more coming up the horizon. But so far, I'm going to put Billie Eilish on top of my album of the year list.
You know, you say that, but last year, at this point in time, our album of the year was Borderline Poppy. The Plot and You. It definitely had pop elements to it, but more atmospheric than anything.
Yeah.
But I think that's an interesting approach because, like you said, you're the guy this is the last thing you're gonna listen to.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of the times it's this whole filter talk again, where maybe shit that has a genre label on it gets caught up in there, and we don't want to listen to it.
Yeah.
But that being said, I think there's something special about taking a genre that's mostly formulaic and that's mostly like you can go in and write a pop song in a couple hours and crank it out and be a number one hit or some shit, right? But I think there's something interesting about that and putting your own artistic spin on it or like getting your message across.
Yep.
Because not to say that pop music doesn't have a message, but a lot of the time it's superfluous. It doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm glad you enjoyed the album, and maybe I should give it a listen.
Do you know who would love it?
Maddie.
Maddie would love it.
She's a Billie Eilish fan, so I don't know if she's gotten around to it yet. But
I started to show my wife. I'm like, it's weird because we went to the picnic, like I said, and I had it on Adriana's speaker. I'm like, it's weird. I like it. I like it because it's weird. Because it's like I said, it's very easy. It's very formulaic, very simple to go through a pop album and be like, well, that's the radio single. That's the radio single. None of these things are related. None of them connect. This one doesn't have that problem. I feel like it's actually an album and not just a collection of songs.
When I do a album review, one of the last stages of it is like throw it on my good set of headphones and like do some work to it. Because I feel like a lot of the times when I'm focusing on work, some of the tempo and some of the production and shit like that, like the musicality gets to you and you feel it, And I think maybe you should throw it on those nice Audio Technicas and get back to me.
Definitely. But very enthusiastic about her. And she's only 17 years old. A young girl doing cool stuff.
Very cool, man. There's a lot of up-and-coming talent and bands like Greta Van Fleet and Billie Eilish. And they're all young, man. And we're only getting older. And it's good to see that maybe the world won't be so bad after we leave.
I told Adriana that I try to, like I said, I stay away from pop. But as far as or I guess, radio stuff. But I'm like, if there's one band that I would want to watch right now, like live, is Greta Van Fleet. Have them play at the Aragon, grab me a beer. I'm fucking going nuts.
Hanging out.
Yeah. Having fun.
Might even hit a doober.
Absolutely. But other than that, man, that's my review for the day.
Very proper, man. You're breaking out of your shell this year.
Little bit.
A lot of it. All right. Now we got the talk.
What's the talk? Oh, no, I forgot about this.
All right. Which one do you want? You want one or two?
Give me one.
Actually, no, I'm going to give you two because you're going to have more at stake here. Crisis. This is our March Madness semifinals. Crisis versus Beloved.
All right, so Gabe has made an intentional effort to conceal these from me on which ones I'm going to have to discuss on the podcast. So he wants my initial gut check reaction. Well,
here's my thing. If this album has made it this far, we've listened to it recently, and that was the point of
you're right.
The second round, right?
Yep, absolutely.
So you love both these albums.
I do.
I think that's fair. What is your standpoint right now? What are your initial thoughts? Talk me through your process.
All right, so Crisis, we talked about it a little bit. We did the Alexis on Fire top 10 or 10 song set list.
Most of them were off Crisis.
And it's very hard to kind of put a genre in a bottle, right? I feel that Alexis on Fire with Crisis did that. I think it's kind of the best of what we have to offer. And I think obviously at this point, we're coming down to the nitty gritty where we're kind of starting to decide what is the best of this or what we prefer in this, scene of music. It's very hard to go against Dallas Green's vocals. His cleans are so fucking beautiful and so well intricate.
It is. I would say he's one of the best vocalists of recent memory.
No, you'd be 100% right with that.
It's really amusing to me how you can make lyrics almost sound like a booming speech.
Yeah.
And that's what this album feels like.
Absolutely. That's Alexis on Fire. That's kind of just a brief overview of my thoughts on them. As far as I Killed the Prom Queen, this album is one of the most violent pieces of music of all time to me. Especially within the bracket that we put together. I don't know, man. My initial reaction, Gabe, I Killed the Prom Queen wins.
But if we were being objective about it, you got to look at it as a whole. And I don't mean to sway you here. If you truly believe it's Beloved, then we can bump it up. But you can't deny that if we wrote down every lyric from Crisis and put them back to back, you couldn't tell me that doesn't sound like a speech.
No, you're right.
Would give.
But want to know where the big gap in my head is at?
Sure.
I've seen Crisis being played live, and it was awesome, and it sounded real good. However, I've seen Beloved get played live, and it was a otherworldly experience.
So you're bringing stagemanship into this. Copy that.
It's just, it's a feel thing. You can't disassociate that. It's part of the package, you know. I saw I Killed the Prom Queen played Warped Tour, and they opened up with To the Wolves, and it was just the nastiest fucking banana crazy mosh pit I've ever seen. One of them.
So is that your choice?
That's my choice. I Killed the Prom Queen moves on to the next round.
All right.
And I have a really big feeling that you're gonna kick me right in the gut with this one.
I'm not.
You're not?
I actually re-listened to both of these recently, and my two is El Son of the Emptiness and All That Remains, The Fall of Ideals.
Okay.
And let me tell you this, these albums aren't that different.
Okay.
I think they have similar structures. Obviously, The Fall of Ideals doesn't have that crazy overarching narrative. There is some between songs, but not as an album as a whole. But it's kind of hard because it's like, well, do I go to Starbucks and do I get tea or do I get a coffee is the question here. It really is, because on paper, you dilute something with hot water, right?
Mm-hmm.
But in practice, you get
something different.
You get this bitter, black, energizing substance, coffee, or you get, well, I guess tea can be that too, right? But, you know, it's this kind of mentality. They're two very distinct flavors that come from the same source. Interesting, huh? And that's kind of this pike I'm at, this fork in the road, where both of them are masterpieces in their own right. But what kind of, you know, where do we go from here? It's like I like both, and I think I like them both equally. They're both nice and proper. That being said, though, one of the gripes with All That Remains is that they stand out from a lot of this stuff that I quote unquote label as dadcore, as like a joke, right? And All That Remains as a band does that, and this album does it. It's I put it right up there with early Parkway Drive, right? You know, it's very distinct. It has its tone, it has its sound, and you can see where it influences a lot of these newer bands, and it does that. But then you have The Emptiness, which kind of comes along, it creeps up on you, and it's like Michael Myers and Halloween, where you know they're coming out with an album, but then you turn around and you see The Mask, and you're like, oh shit, this is really close. And then you know, the movie goes on, and the main actress, it's, you know, Laurie, there he fucking is, in your face, and you cannot ignore The Emptiness. And they got to give it to that, man. I'm sorry. And that was kind of my approach to this, man. Both are excellent in their own right.
Yeah.
And if we were being purely subjective, I would have definitely given it to All That Remains. But I'm looking at it as subjectively. I'm really not trying to play favorites. Otherwise, you know, this would have been a whole fucking cobble of a mess, and we'd have been yelling at each other. But both albums have heart. I think The Emptiness has a little bit more character.
Honestly, I think that's the right choice. Now next week is going to be something interesting. I haven't really decided how we're going.
Both these are yours too, by the way. None of my shit made it through.
You're giving me shit. But I mean, like, The Emptiness as an album.
Here's my thing, right? There's Christmas movies, and then there's A Nightmare Before Christmas, and that's what this album is. Like, there's nothing quite like A Nightmare Before Christmas. You know, there's other Christmas movies, and a lot of them are great in their own sense and its own frilly Christmas warm hot chocolate feeling. But then there's A Nightmare Before Christmas that takes this Christmas genre and turns it upside down and just completely reimagines the idea. And look at A Nightmare Before Christmas. There's stickers, clothes. People are still raving about this movie that's, you know, 10 years old or 12 years old at this point.
I'm just saying, with your analogy, I would have went with Die Hard, but sure.
Die Hard is great too.
Yeah.
But you see what I'm getting at, right?
No, yeah, I get you. The Emptiness as an album, I mean, it you care about the story. Like, the story's so intriguing and interesting.
Yeah, we're going to mention this every week now. The story's so intriguing and interesting.
I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
But, so yeah. Well, so that's it. We're down to the final two.
We're down to the final two.
We're down.
How do you want to decide this? You want to come up with a list of points and argue them? Or do you want to...
Well, I think you could give me either one. We could do that.
You want to do a debate?
We could do a debate and then maybe put it up on the internet. And then see.
Right. Let's do our debate. Which side do you want?
You assign them. I want you to assign them.
I'll take Beloved.
Okay.
I'll take that one.
All right. Fair enough. And looks like I got The Emptiness by my daughter, I guess.
Cool. Yeah. So we'll have a little 15-minute debate on highlights of these albums and kind of summarize them. See, you're shit out of luck. 'Cause I'm a really good writer, and I'm gonna come in here with fucking guns ablazing, whole ass dissertation on this album.
All right.
You better be prepared.
I'll be prepared. I'm definitely gonna talk about it. This, of all the albums that I think to get to the end for me to be able to wax poetic about and actually talk about how I feel about it, I think this is a perfect album to end up with, for me.
Yeah. And balls in your court, buddy.
Absolutely.
Balls in your court. So that is 113.
Yeah, that was episode 113 of the Second City Kids podcast. We are going to carry over our summer 10 songs.
We kind of had some big stuff this week. So
yeah.
Summer 10-song set list, songs that remind you about summer. No more than 2 songs per band.
Yeah, I already have a few.
I got my list formulated. Not quite done yet, though.
Yeah, absolutely. So, but until then, obviously that was the Second City Kids podcast. You can go ahead and like us and subscribe on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher Radio, TuneIn Radio, which we got that problem fixed. We don't have that other random dude talking on our shit anymore. So that's great. You can go ahead and follow us on Podbean. We've had ourselves some pretty good weeks the last couple of weeks, and we want to keep that going, keep that momentum moving forward, upwards and onwards. Excelsior, as Stan Lee would say. But other than that, that is episode 113. We will see here back next week with episode 114 for the finals of the March Madness core good stuff bracket, and probably have a variety of other things to talk about as well. But until then, deuces.